Hi everyone, I'm Liam Eagle. I'm the editor here at the Web Host Industry Review, and I'd like to welcome you to another of our WER webinars. Today's is titled The Opportunity in Trust, Moving Beyond Simple Security, and it's going to feature presentations from Bob Angus, who is Senior Channel Marketing Manager at VeriSign, and Adam Eisner, who is Director of Domain Services at OpenSRS. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves in a moment, and I'll turn things over to Bob, who will begin his part of the presentation. But before I do, I just wanted to share a few housekeeping notes. There will be some time at the end for a Q&A, but if you want to submit your questions throughout the presentation, and there's a function in the webinar software for doing that, I'll keep an eye on those, and if something really relevant to what's being said at that time comes up, I will try to find a polite spot to interrupt and put your question to the panelists. Similarly, we'll have a record of all the questions asked throughout, so at the end, if your question hasn't been answered, you can trust that someone will follow up with you after the fact by email or by phone or something like that. Excuse me. Finally, if you have a question that you'd rather not ask out in front of everyone else, you can certainly follow up directly with one of the presenters. There's going to be contact information on screen during the Q&A period. If you'd like to take another look at the slides, you can email one of the presenters and ask if they'll be willing to give those over to you, and there will certainly be a video archive of the webinar up on the WER site first thing next week. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Bob. And Bob, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Liam. Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Angus, Senior Channel Marketing Manager at VeriSign, and actually part of the VeriSign Partner Program, which is now a part of Symantec. I'm going to switch the slides over here so you can see my presentation. But yeah, VeriSign is very happy to be here today to talk about basically something that's incredibly important to businesses these days. And there's really a big opportunity for online businesses because online threats to internet surfers, consumers, website owners, your customers, basically continues to rise. And ultimately, the solutions have to go beyond just the traditional security products. And it really boils down to being a matter of trust. And so as a quick agenda for what we'll cover in the next 25 minutes or so, want to really start off by talking about the key environmental drivers that are impacting websites today and ultimately why trust is more important than ever. Then go into some of the actual solutions that you can provide and you can help your online businesses with in building trust. And then lastly, what's in it for you? The key one, what's your financial opportunity and how can you make this an effective solution for you and your customers? So why is trust more important than ever? It really starts off with the fact that there are a ton of security threats that are out there today. And now actually in the security industry we like to call them attack vectors. Attack vectors sounds a lot cooler than just threats or warnings. So there's lots of attack vectors out there where the bad guys are trying to get at data, information. It goes way beyond just even trying to steal identities and get credit card numbers these days. And they do it in a myriad of ways. It's just classic, phishing attacks, viruses, spyware, even the good old Ponzi scheme shows up online. So there's a lot of threats and attack vectors out there. But what's important to understand really is that it's incredibly difficult for consumers or online shoppers to know about all these attacks. They just hear all the bad stuff. And for website owners and online businesses, you're focused on getting traffic to your site and conversions. You don't have time to really worry about these things. You really know that they're out there, but frankly, you don't want to have to deal with it. And so that's a big factor. But we are seeing that the stats are proving out that customers and these attacks are translating into real impacts on business. And here's a couple statistics that we like to talk about. First is that more than ever, online shoppers just expect that core level of security, and they want even more of it. So it's not just seeing the lock of an SSL certificate in the corner. They expect more assurance that their information is safe when they're on a website. And there's lots of websites being compromised these days. Google estimates that 40,000 new websites are compromised every single week. And a lot of that, actually, these days, the hot trend, if you will, is malware and malvertising in particular. The Online Trust Alliance just released a report that said in Q2 of this year, over 250% growth in malvertising, or malware being spread through ad networks, is occurring. So all of a sudden, there are a lot of these attacks. They are coming in different ways, but ultimately consumers vote with their wallets and their clicks, and there's a lot of money at stake. And so for online businesses, it's really important that you know these are not just metrics. These turn into real dollars and cents for your business. So how does this really work out in the grand scheme of things for websites, the vast majority of websites that are out there? We like to think there's kind of the good internet and the bad internet. This is almost it's a consumer's point of view, really, and it's really easy for the good guys, the big names that are out there that kind of get the benefit of the doubt just because they're huge names. Amazon, Apple, Facebook, your banks, they instantly get brand power that engenders trust with consumers. And of course there's the, I don't know, I'll call it ethically challenged sites that are spreading and are intentionally trying to attack customers and get information. But really the majority of websites that are out there fall in between those. Not everybody could be an Amazon or an Apple, but most likely, your website's not the obvious scam site, asking, trying to help out your Nigerian uncle to get his lottery winnings. So how do the vast majority of websites, how do they say, who can trust me? Or actually, really, when it comes down to it, the businesses have to think in terms of their visitors and say, who can trust you, and who can trust me as a website, as an unknown business. The vast majority of websites that are out there don't have those brand names, but have to, because of all those factors that I displayed, they have to engender trust right away. And if you don't feel, as a visitor, if you don't feel that you're on a site that's safe, you could switch away in a second. You could go somewhere else to get that same information or do those same transactions. And so basically, as an unknown business, if you aren't building trust, your customers are gone, and they're gone fast. So it's incredibly important that businesses think about trust in terms of driving traffic to their site and in terms of keeping customers on their site doing what you want them to do. So how do you do that? How do you build trust online? And actually, how I like to think of it is really in that customer life cycle, or the visitor. And first, the person has to find you. They have to trust your link in search engine results, or however you might be found on the internet. So first, they have to find you and get to your site, so they have to trust the link. Once they're on your site, they have to make that emotional decision to trust you, and they have to feel that confidence right away. And then ultimately, they have to trust the transaction. So before they do share anything, even something as simple as signing up for a newsletter or registering for something, anytime they're sharing information, that's a transaction, and they have to feel confident that their information is safe. So ultimately, you benefit by improving the whole experience and bringing trust at all of those levels. So yeah, trust the click, trust the site, and trust the transaction. And if you do that, and as a result of that, you're going to get more traffic, you're going to get more transactions, and really more loyal, happy customers at the end of the day. So how do you do that? First, it starts off with building a stronger brand, providing basically a clear, distinguishable way to say, I'm a legitimate business and I could be trusted. It actually starts out with having a professional-looking website. So fundamental core website design is very key. Having all the easy navigation and privacy policies and ability to contact us and those types of things always make visitors feel confident. But ultimately, you're going to have to stand out and really build a stronger brand around trust. And what we've done at VeriSign, we have a product that comes with our SSL certificates as well as a standalone product called the VeriSign Trust Seal. And that's just a visual cue that says this site has been trusted by VeriSign, and it's meaningful because people are used to seeing it. So when you are shopping online or doing online banking, visitors are used to seeing the VeriSign seal. In fact, it's displayed over 250 million times a day. So it's out there, it's very visible, and it has the credibility and recognition. Plus, even something simple as it's an image. Visual cues definitely get the attention of visitors much more than text or a link down at the bottom that says, here's my privacy policy. So ultimately, at the end of the day, the VeriSign Trust Seal delivers something that says trust, and it's very visible, and it's very authentic, and also not everybody can get that, and I'm actually going to go into that right now. Authentication is a key part of SSL certificates and in getting the VeriSign seal. It's very, very important that folks know that not everybody can get a trust solution. Not everybody can just plunk down some money and be trusted. There have to be rigorous checks and balances in order to get things. So for the most part, IT folks know that SSL certificates encrypt data and protect that data as it's being transmitted. And there's all sorts of hashing algorithms and big brain cryptography stuff underlying that encryption that makes it so the bad guys can't steal private data. But the value of SSL for businesses and their customers goes way beyond that. An essential part of issuing a certificate is fundamentally that not everyone can get it. You have to be authenticated as a legitimate business, and that's part of the process before a certificate and before a trust mark or a seal is issued. And there are a lot of checks that are out there that take place behind the scenes before we issue anything. Now, there's another growing threat in the landscape here. I mentioned previously that malvertising is growing at an insanely fast rate. basically malware is growing very, very fast. The anti-phishing working group, actually, they do a regular report, and they estimated in Q3 that almost half of the computers that they scanned 22 million computers, almost half of those were infected with some type of malware. And this is typically, malware is basically the bad guys looking for weak spots on your web server and planting malicious code. And it's really hard for websites and businesses to detect that. And again, you're focusing on trying to drive traffic, not look at all the bad stuff that possibly is sneaking onto your system. It's hard to find, and it's hard to get rid of, but ultimately it is there. And so a core part of what we're providing now is malware scanning, a daily malware scan. It now comes with all VeriSign SSL certificates and the VeriSign Trust Seal. And that's great because then we're actually going to help the average website owner easily identify that, hey, there is malware on your site. Here's the line of code that it is impacted. Delete it. We'll rescan you, and you're good to go. And that's important because we want to catch that stuff early, because if Google catches it, you're going to get blacklisted. And so they're not in the business of helping you remove your malware problem. They're in the business of making sure that the clicks go to safe places. So they just go ahead and blacklist you. And as a website owner, can you imagine if all of a sudden your Google traffic stopped coming? It would be devastating to your business. Any online business relies on that traffic from search engines. So we provide a daily malware scan that helps get the bad stuff out and helps keep you from getting blacklisted. Now, I did mention that we try to think of trust at all levels of the experience, and it really does start off with the search engine a lot of times. But ultimately, as online businesses, you want to drive more traffic to your website. That's what you're focused on, and trust can play into that very well. One of the features that is part of VeriSign's SSL certificates and the VeriSign Trust Seal now is something we call Seal in Search. And basically, that same trusted symbol, the VeriSign Trust Seal, now can show up in search results, both in paid listings as well as in natural search results for VeriSign customers. And it's done through a plugin that is distributed through various antivirus software vendors. We estimate over 100 million installations of that plugin at this point, and growing rapidly. So customers out there, they're surfing, they're searching on very common terms, and rather than seeing that sea of text and look-alike search results, all of a sudden, if your name shows up and you have the VeriSign seal next to it, you're going to get more clicks. So we recognize not only at a consumer level is it important to make sure that somebody trusts a link before they click it, but it's also incredibly important, of course, for online businesses to drive more traffic to your site. And that's, at the end of the day, that's a lot of what folks focus on. And ultimately, though, it has to work out in terms of the amount of money you're making, too. And so what we've seen consistently with A/B split tests, if you show the VeriSign seal on your site, you're going to get, on average, a 24% uplift. We have dozens of case studies that demonstrate when the VeriSign seal is shown, you get more conversions, whether it's registrations, sign-ups, or actual purchases. Whatever the call to action is, you get more than if you don't show the seal. So that right there typically pays for the certificate itself. And ultimately, yeah, your customers are going to love this. I mean, so no matter what their objective is, whatever metric they're tracking, trust has an impact. So whether that's traffic or unique visitors or impressions or clicks or down to the transactional level, ultimately it funnels down into trust driving more revenues and more profits for your online business. Now your financial opportunity is fantastic too in offering the VeriSign SSL certificates to your customers. You're going to be able to have a very, very powerful value proposition here around trust, and then ultimately the solutions and what Adam will be able to talk about that OpenSRS provides. But ultimately, we like to think of VeriSign SSL certificates as SSL and more. So yes, it has the fundamental core things that all SSL certificates have. It does the highest level of encryption, and it does offer authentication, whether it's organizational validated authentication or extended validation with the green bar. We have that, but now we have more, and it's not at an extra price. So we've now included the daily website malware scanning, the seal and search that helps drive more traffic, and the new VeriSign Trust Seal. So that clear indicator that a site is safe and a link that is safe. So those are all included, and that's above and beyond, again, just encryption. A lot of times folks just think of SSL as encryption, and it is a lot more. And if you are marketing and selling SSL certificates, here's some tips and tricks on ways you could position and message that information. And ultimately, the elevator pitch is that, maximize traffic, sales, and loyalty online by showing customers that they can transact with confidence. That's it. It talks about the benefits, traffic, and sales, and happy, loyal customers. That's what online businesses care about. Those are the key drivers for business decisions that they make above and beyond the technology. And that's exactly what the VeriSign SSL certificates deliver. And actually, it's very affordably priced for given all that value. I mean, really, then this is retail list price of VeriSign SSL certificates are as low as $399. That's less than $35 a month. I mean, think of all the things that we spend more than $35 in a given day, let alone a month, and deliver, quick benefits. I mean, going out to dinner is more expensive than that. But here's something that you could get for $35 a month that will drive significant benefits and growth for your business. So definitely highlight the fact that it is very affordably priced. Even break it down into that monthly cost. It really helps folks see. Even just that's kind of an old marketing tactic, right? But what's more, $399 or $35 a month? Well, people see that sticker shock of $399, but $35 a month, yeah, they'll take that. I also did want to mention some of the objections that you might face or ways that you can really present, rather than talking about price and diving into price when selling SSL certificates, you could present it in terms of value very effectively and ask some simple questions. Apply some of the metrics and proof points that we have, but ask how many more customers would you get if you can drive just 10% more traffic? And we now offer the VeriSign Seal and Search, and we've seen that sites like The Find, which is a big comparison shopping site, is getting 18.5% more clicks just because a site shows the VeriSign seal. So, online businesses, how many more customers do you get if you just get 10%? Most people are getting way more than that, but let's be conservative and say you only get 10%. Or maybe increasing transactions just 1%. The average is 24%, but 1% in this tough economy, a lot of folks would like that 1% more. But ultimately, you're trying to get folks to get out of a cost mindset when buying SSL certificates and thinking of it as an investment. Now, of course, we also recognize that the competition is going to be out there, and all they really have is price. And so a couple of lines just for your sales guys to really hammer that home is reinforcing, you may be thinking that you're getting a better deal, but you're not. There's a reason why those other SSL providers are cheaper. And then you, again, hammer home the proof points and how VeriSign SSL certificates drive more sales, drive more traffic to websites, and ultimately is the most trusted mark on the internet. And here are other proof points. You can hammer home these proof points about the sales, about how visible the SSL and the VeriSign seal are, how recognized it is, and that it is actually trusted and expected by online visitors. Another metric that is new is the fact it's kind of that reverse, which is 11% of respondents to our branding studies actually didn't conduct business with the site because they didn't see the VeriSign seal. So again, in this tough economy, I don't know too many businesses that can afford to lose 1%, 2% of their customers just because they're missing a seal, let alone 11% or double digits. So that's another proof point that you can definitely highlight. Or, and this is something that our sales team works on, and you definitely can take advantage of it, is ask some simple questions, and you could quantify and get folks out of that cost mindset and into an investment mindset by quantifying the value of certificates very quickly. Just ask, how much are you spending on search engine marketing these days? What are your typical revenues based off of that, and how much are you making in terms of profit? Ask those simple questions, and you could quickly calculate and compare against just $35 a month, and folks will be wowed by that. So actually, we'll do a little today's math quiz. Let me run through that as an example. And if you're dealing with a website and you ask, how much are you spending on internet marketing? It's about $100 a day. Okay, it's about $3,000 a month that you're spending on search, on PPC campaigns or other search marketing. What's your revenues on that? Oh, it's about $10,000, $5,000 in profit. That's really good. Well, wow, we've seen that on average, VeriSign's SSL certificates and the VeriSign Trust Seal help deliver a 20% increase in sales. Even if you don't get that, let's say you just get 10% on your $5,000 in monthly profit, that means you're going to profit $500 more per month just by buying this product. And it's only $35 a month. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd pay $35 a month to make $500. That's your sales pitch right there. You could easily quantify the value, get them thinking in terms of their opportunity as opposed to just their costs. So ultimately, you have with VeriSign SSL certificates, you have an incredibly powerful value proposition you could sell. It's SSL and more, and at no extra charge. So you have the encryption, you have the authentication, the highest levels of authentication encryption, but you also have daily malware scanning, traffic driving power with the VeriSign seal and search, and of course the seal itself on the website, the most recognized trust mark online. And that's important because you're also going to be able to deliver that to more customers. It's incredibly easy to sell, like through the OpenSRS system. Processing and getting your SSL certificate is incredibly easy, and of course you have great margins, and you're going to be able to increase your profits by selling this very easy to sell, highly valuable product. So that's a little bit about trust today, and how the landscape for SSL is changing in the direction of trust beyond just encryption. It is all about trust, and that's what websites are caring about. So I'm going to pass it back over to Liam. And
hey, Bob, I think I can pass the controls over to Adam here. And,
okay.
While we make this sort of transition, and Adam, also feel free to jump in on the answer to this question, but I kind of wanted to clarify a bit. I know, Bob, you mentioned, broadly talked about trust, and then specifically talked about SSL, and then you also talked about malware scanning. Can you help me help us sort of get a better understanding of what exactly is involved in the scope of quote unquote trust solutions?
Yeah. So I think today trust goes way beyond just the classic lock of encrypting a session or making sure the data is being protected. There are lots of other solutions. I mean, malware really is the one that we're seeing as the biggest attack on websites, and it's the most insidious because people don't expect it, they don't know it's there, it's hard to find, and yet it's easy to deliver by the bad guys. So malware scanning is something that's popping up. There are certainly other types of vulnerability scanning that are available out there. I like to think of the analogy of a house and the security systems. There's basically, if your website was a house, I mean, there's solutions that make sure that the doors are locked and the windows are shut, but then there's also and this is where malware scanning is, we call it the motion sensors inside the house, and so that's where malware scanning is. There's somebody already bad inside your house. We want to make sure that we catch them. So, but there are lots of solutions out there, and then also lots of trust indicators are definitely popping up, but from very credible sources like the Better Business Bureau. So that is becoming more and more prevalent.
It's Adam here. I think as well that one thing that this really works out for when it comes to hosting companies is the fact that VeriSign, and I'm going to talk a bit about this myself with what we're doing at OpenSRS, have kind of realized that there's a big market that's difficult to tap as a hosting company when it does come to SSL, specifically with shared hosting customers. I would find, in situations where you have small business customers but they don't necessarily need an SSL certificate, the move to trust beyond SSL and kind of introducing the concept of malware scanning and trust seals and the idea that you don't always need an SSL certificate, I think really jives well with the shared hosting environment, the shared hosting world, where an SSL certificate might not be perhaps the most useful solution for a small business customer. Now there's something else a hosting company in the same sort of sphere can sell to a hosting company, to their customers now, basically.
Hey, Adam, similarly, are there things that sell really well alongside an SSL cert?
I think that we're just really kind of getting started with other things that might sell well. Certainly the trust seal idea is something that's becoming a lot more popular and accepted. Aside from that, we've really always positioned SSL as something that you should be selling to customers who kind of need to secure anything. So, if you're selling e-commerce services or you're selling maybe some back-end services that would require encryption, anything with the exchange of important data, forums, login, that might require a login, all that stuff does seem to actually gel pretty well with SSL.
Okay, well that's great. That certainly answers the question. Why don't I let you just sort of take it away with the presentation?
All right. I certainly, I think Bob covered a lot of really good stuff. So, and we're getting on 35, 40 minutes already. So I certainly don't have as many slides to cover myself, but I think certainly Bob did an awesome job of talking about the importance of SSL trust, the value, and all the cool new stuff that VeriSign slash now Symantec are working on around that. It's giving hosting companies some opportunity around new things they could sell. So for me, what I really want to talk about is what's happening over at OpenSRS as it relates to trust and SSL and all that good stuff. Some of you may be familiar with OpenSRS. For those of you who may not be, just a quick couple of points on who we are and what we do. We are one of the world's biggest domain name registrars and a very large provider of SSL certificates and email services. We're based in Toronto, Canada. We have offices in both the United States and the UK, so we're a global operation. We have 10,000 resellers around the world who operate in well over 100 countries, and we reach millions and millions, tens of millions of end users worldwide. We're a division of Tucows, so many of you may know us as Tucows. That is our parent company. OpenSRS is sort of the wholesale internet services division that operates underneath Tucows. Our services, like I mentioned, we have 10,000 resellers. That's how our services are sold. They're entirely white label. So, for example, we partner with VeriSign. We give our resellers, who are mostly hosting companies and service providers like yourselves, the ability to sell services with your own branding, your own labeling, logos, messaging, all that good stuff. Just in the background, we're doing all of the heavy technical lifting. Our channel that we sell through, I mentioned they're hosting companies. They're like yourself. We also power registrars. I got a couple of stats in the presentation that I think are interesting because with 10,000 registrars and 10,000 resellers and being one of the largest domain name registrars in the world, we think we control a good chunk of the market that gives us some really interesting insight into how the overall hosting industry as a whole is actually doing. Myself, my name, as we've mentioned a couple times, is Adam Eisner. I am the Director of Domain Services here at OpenSRS. I've worked at Tucows/OpenSRS for about 7 years. A lot more time working with web hosting companies, technology companies in the industry. So I've been, I guess you could say, in the industry for about a decade at this point. And my responsibilities really are to manage the day-to-day operations of both our domain name and SSL businesses and kind of look out into the market and see what's going on out there, talk to hosting customers like yourself, and determine what the best services will be going forward to introduce to our reseller network to be able to help customers sell things like domain names and SSL more profitably and more effectively. So just really quickly, when it comes to SSL, we are one of the largest wholesale providers of VeriSign Trust products. So I know Bob very well, and I work with his coworkers a fair bit. We are a very strong partner of VeriSign. We sell a lot and really believe in the VeriSign brands, which are GeoTrust, Thought, and VeriSign. We offer a wide range of SSL certificates under each brand that we make available to our customers. We offer a wide range of products underneath each of those brands. So whether it's a domain validated SSL certificate, organization validated, an EV cert with the green bar, or even now the Trust Seal, we offer variations of all those products inside of each one of these brands. And it's actually been a really interesting time here at OpenSRS when it comes to trust and SSL. Bob talked a fair bit, and we discussed, Liam, Bob, and I in those comments a couple of minutes ago, about the transition from SSL to trust. And so we've done a lot of work this month to basically expand the notion of security inside the OpenSRS reseller network to recognize the fact that things like the VeriSign Trust Seal, which allow hosting customers to sell even more services to small businesses or even individuals that might be looking for a security solution, really take that notion and that idea and kind of roll it into our systems so that SSL is really not the only security thing that is sold anymore. And so what that really means is that we've rejigged our entire system to now introduce a new control panel a new API that makes it a lot easier to sell things like GeoTrust, Thought, and VeriSign products to end users. Two new things that we introduced as part of this, aside from rolling out a new platform, is we introduced unlimited server licenses for the GeoTrust products, so anybody using our new system no longer has to pay on a per license level. And we also introduced the VeriSign site seal to all of our VeriSign products. So, positioning SSL historically, if you've looked at all of VeriSign's brands, has been a bit confusing if you didn't really know what you want to sell. And I think one of the most important things that comes out of the site seal as it pertains to the VeriSign brand is the fact that positioning the VeriSign brand next to, say, a GeoTrust brand or a Thought brand, when you're looking at the high-end products of each, now becomes a little more clear, because the VeriSign site seal is a clear added bonus to, aside from the already strong VeriSign checkmark brand that you get, another additional feature that rolls into the VeriSign product line. So we're pretty excited about it, and we've seen some pretty significant uptake of it already. If you happen to be an existing OpenSRS customer on the call today, probably the most important thing that comes out of all of this is the fact that we now have one unified solution and system in which to sell both domain names and SSL. It now uses the same API. It now uses the same web interface, and I'll show you what that looks like in a quick second. One thing I did want to mention that we do see in our reseller network sometimes is sometimes there's still a lack of product penetration when it comes to SSL. There's some hosting companies, and this is not just for the OpenSRS network. I'm always surprised when I run into hosting companies, and this happens over and over at things like HostingCon, where a host will come up to me and say, SSL, I don't really need to sell that. It's complicated, and I'm not interested. What I think hosting companies generally overlook in those situations is if a small business or a consumer needs an SSL certificate, they are going to get it from somewhere. So if they can't find it on your website, it's not like they're going to drop the idea. They're just going to go somewhere else to get it. And so what that basically does is open up the opportunity for a competitor to establish a relationship with their customer, and that's a really bad thing. So I always say, really, you need to offer some kind of SSL offering, and now even I'd expand that to say Trust Seal, in order to make sure that you're providing your hosting customer with all the services they need now, or even if they don't need it now, as they grow and get bigger and need more items from you, you want to make sure you have those so they don't have to go to a competitor in order to buy additional stuff. And to that end, although we are a very big leader in SSL certificates, when it comes to volumes around Thought, VeriSign, and GeoTrust, we still think there is plenty of opportunity for hosting companies to sell SSL to their customers. Within our own network, I mentioned that the site seal works very well for shared hosting customers. We see an attach rate, a very low attach rate of domain names to SSL certificates in the shared hosting sector inside of our customer base. And obviously part of that is shared hosting customers may not need an SSL certificate, but they could certainly use a site seal. I'm not aware of many websites where a seal like that, which is trusted, would not be applicable. And even so, I am sure there's lots of shared hosting companies shared hosting customers out there who could use SSL certificates and are not securing everything that they should inside of their websites and operations. Even for web design and e-commerce hosting companies and customers that we qualify as dedicated or managed hosting companies, the number of domain names they sell and the number of SSL certificates that actually attach to those domain names are still very, very low. So it shows us that there is certainly a lot of opportunity to still sell more SSL products into existing sales channels. Just wanted to mention a quick word about our new SSL system. If you happen to have used us in the past or currently do for SSL services, this is kind of a quick look at the first iteration of our new interface that we're using for Trust, which is actually powered by some pretty powerful stuff in the background when it comes to searching for products and managing your orders. Historically, if you have a lot of SSL certificates, it can be a challenge to navigate and use and manage. They're not, there's a lot of moving parts to those products. So our new interfaces, we have a lot of information about this in our blog, and the new initiatives we're doing around that really make it easy to go through your SSL certificate orders quickly, manage them. It makes ordering really easy. The API is very flexible and powerful, something a lot of our customers have been asking for a long time, so we're pretty excited about that. To wrap things up quickly, because we're already getting on 50 minutes into the presentation, I just wanted to mention that you can get more information on what we've been doing around SSL with VeriSign Symantec and where we're going on our blog at opensrs.com/blog. And also, if you want to learn a little bit more about our SSL offering at opensrs.com/services/SSL, you can get some more information there. And with that, I'll say thanks and throw it back to Liam.
Okay, well, let me just start by asking a question specifically for you, Adam, and I mean, Bob, feel free to jump in with an answer if you feel like there's more to add at the end, but I was pretty interested by your slide that showed the attach rates for SSL certs on the various levels of hosting customer. Is that something that you think is going to grow of its own accord, or is there something that hosts aren't doing on the sales front that could just, raise those rates significantly?
Yeah, sure. So that's a good question. I think that some of it will just generally grow by its own accord, but I don't really think it's going to be that significant. I think the problem right now is a lot of hosting customers, companies that we encounter, look at SSL sales as a royal pain in the butt. So they look at it as a chore. So a customer comes to them and says, hey, I just launched XYZ and I need a cert. And that hosting company goes, oh, God, they need a certificate. Okay, well, let me log into this interface manually and purchase this SSL cert, and I don't really have it on my website, and I haven't really productized it in my offering, but I'm going to do it to make sure that this customer's happy. They don't realize that they could actually be making a lot of money, certainly more on a lot of certainly higher margins on this and a lot of other services they sell, if they only took the time to really look at how it might integrate properly into their sales process.
Yeah, and I will add something to that. I mean, I definitely see a huge opportunity. I mean, those attach rates really show that there's a green field out there. But I think it is also incumbent on companies like VeriSign or Symantec to help web hosts understand and really have awareness of the benefits and pull, do our own marketing, but ultimately pull customers and advice so that customers are coming and asking for a SSL certificate from their web host.
Right.
So trying to do a little bit of that marketing up front, have that visibility, making sure that people are aware of trust is available here and you could get it at your web host. Go get it. And so we could put our marketing muscle, and this is one of the great advantages, of course, now working at Symantec, huge company, being able to help and market our products very aggressively.
Okay. I have a couple of questions from attendees. I guess the first question is whether and I think this is for both, I guess generally in terms of the purchasing process for the customer buying the SSL cert. It's whether the customer gets any feedback when the form that they fill out, I guess, to buy this certificate. I might be wrong with that, but when they're purchasing the certificate, if they're not coding things correctly, are they getting feedback about that?
Yeah, I could respond to that. Yes, basically the whole process is well documented. A customer does get notified at all phases of the authentication and ultimately fulfillment of the SSL certificate. So if something is hung up, you are notified of it and what the issue is so that you could rectify that.
Okay, and this is a question that I think is directly for Adam. And it is a customer, somebody who I assume is an OpenSRS customer now, asking when and if other SSL brands might be available from you guys.
So we do offer a wide range of different thought, GeoTrust, and and VeriSign brand items out there today. We are looking at rolling out a few more within that product line, and that's kind of our that is the approach that we're taking, given that we work with VeriSign so closely.
Yeah, and I could actually add to that a little bit also, because obviously in working with OpenSRS, there are different markets for different SSL certificates, and we always like to think of having a very well-rounded situation that OpenSRS can provide a certificate for any customer situation, basically. So whether it is a domain, they want a quick domain validated certificate, or a VeriSign EV certificate at the high end, it's a one-stop shop.
All right. I think you started to touch on this, Adam, and I think that this is obviously something that there's a million variables that will influence it. But is there a good way to? I know for instance, your attach rates were probably sort of generalized across your entire customer base. Yeah. If I'm looking at my own customer base as perhaps as a reseller of yours, is there a good way to get a sense for how much traction a certain trust products are going to have within my users?
That's a good question. I think you'd really actually need to have a good look at, part of the issue is that you need to have a good look at and good knowledge of what types of hosting customers you have inside of your customer base. So for any sort of provider of SSL, it's a little difficult to quantify or qualify how any hosting customer's customer base is made up. So really, I think a host would need to look at their own base and say, okay, well, how many of these people are small businesses? How many of them are individual brochureware kind of websites? And how many people operate real e-commerce operations, and go from there. I will say that over the past, let's say, about 18 months, the domain industry has got a lot smarter at being able to help registrars identify customers like that inside of the customer bases of hosting companies. So there's nothing that we have right now that would probably provide too much assistance there, but in 2011 we do plan to get a lot smarter around the analytics that we're able to provide customers now that registries have sort of caught up in terms of being able to help us gather that data.
Okay, I got another question here from the audience about the pricing for SSL certs and whether those are going to change, and specifically about GeoTrust, and I guess they're asking if the price for GeoTrust certs are going to decrease at any point.
And as far as the GeoTrust product line at the retail level, and I'll let Adam speak to the awesome ability to offer that through OpenSRS, but at the retail level, we recognize that the market for price-conscious customers who wanted a trusted certificate and they wanted it fast, the price points were a little bit lower, and so yes, we've just recently announced that GeoTrust retail prices are lowering, as well as now offering unlimited server licensing.
Yeah, so just to add to that, on the OpenSRS side, we're obviously aware that GeoTrust has taken down the price of some of their products in the portfolio, and so while I don't have anything to announce right now, certainly we're aware that those prices have gone down, and we're really, really sensitive to what GeoTrust is selling their stuff for on a retail level to make sure that our customers can offer something that it can compete with that very well.
Okay, that's almost it for questions. I know somebody just posted a question here referring to Bob's great YouTube spot. And I was wondering if you guys are planning on doing anything together. Like, you guys going to collaborate on any YouTube stuff?
We've been working on a rap.
Exactly. And I've seen your dance moves, Adam. You're pretty darn good too. So
yeah, I'm pretty crazy with it.
Yeah, if you need somebody there to beatbox or something like that, I could help you guys out too.
We could be a group.
I mean, we practically are at this point. All right. Well, I
just need the studio time.
I don't have any more questions from the attendees, and we're just about at noon now. I don't know if you guys think that's an all right time to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that's good. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to me talk a bit about OpenSRS and Bob.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate everyone taking the time out of the day to learn a lot more about trust. And if you do have any questions, I know that Adam and I are available to help you out at any time.
All right. Well, I also thank everyone for attending. I want to thank the guys who submitted questions for putting some good questions to you guys. Of course, I want to thank Bob and Adam for providing us with some excellent insight and some really good specific insight into a subject that is probably top of mind for a lot of you guys. And finally, I'd like to remind everyone that an archived copy of the webinar will be online probably first thing next week at theword.com/webinars. Along with archived copies of a lot of other great webinar content that we've done, and I understand it'll also be embedded somewhere on the OpenSRS site sometime, so you can look for it there. Thanks very much, everyone, and have a great day.